Welcome to Above Par. I'm your host, Kathy Hartwood. I show you how to take more of your talent to the golf course without practicing harder, taking more lessons, or buying new equipment. I show you how to end the frustration of underperforming so you can start playing to your potential. This is where you are going to learn how to think above par so you can play below par. Let's get to it. Hello, my golf friend. Welcome back to Above Par. I am so glad you're here and listening, showing up and sharing the podcast, sharing your stories with me about how much it's been impacting your game and your life. I love hearing all of them, so I appreciate it. If you get to whatever platform you're listening on and want to give a review, that would be greatly appreciated. It helps more people find the podcast as well. So I want to give a quick shout out to Beth Magera. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Beth from Greenville. And she is a student of my childhood golf friend, Jamie McCullough, who was Jamie Deweese at the time. And I went up to visit Jamie for a big birthday surprise her. And we started talking about one of her students, Beth. She loved the podcast. I had an extra hat in my car and I gave it to Jamie to give to Beth. And then Jamie sent me a text that said, my friend and student Beth loves her new hat. She shot 75 today and attributed it to your book that she's read twice. She focused on her routine today and made 15 pars and 3 bogeys. Easy peasy. So Beth, way to go. Thank you for reading the book. Thank you for listening to the podcast and doing the work and sporting the hat. I appreciate you and keep up the good work and sharing all your success with me. And I'm sure Jamie will share it with me too. So just wanted to give her a shout out. Congratulations. I just want to share her success because it's super awesome. Way to go, Beth. So today what I wanted to talk about was paradigms, golf paradigms. Paradigms in general, but we're going to use it in the context of golf. And I've had a slew of people having paradigm shifts lately. It's about changing your perspective, basically, seeing things from a different angle, having some aha moments, maybe as Oprah would say, right? And in this context, a paradigm shift, in a simple definition, is an important change that happens when the usual way of thinking about or doing something is replaced by a new and different way. So a lot of times, paradigm shifts, aha moments, perspective shifts happen randomly and sometimes years later. And I'm going to give you my example of what I call my Chick-fil-A moment. I may have shared this in another podcast. I don't know. If I have, I'm going to share it again. So even my kids use this example. They call things a Chick-fil-A moment. So I went to Furman University, which is in Greenville, South Carolina, and we would hang out at the mall. And at that time, Greenville was not like it is now. This was in the 80s. There was this little chicken place in the food court, now known as Chick-fil-A. But I did not know it was Chick-fil-A. No one said the name out loud. I called it Chick-fil-A in my head. I used to think to myself, that's the dumbest name on the planet. Why would they go Chick-fil-A? Like, it made no sense. But I would go there for waffle fries. I knew they were closed on Sundays. Fast forward, many years, I went and played all over the world. I came back. Chick-fil-A was not what it is now. There was only a handful of them. They were in the South. I was from Buffalo. I've never seen the restaurant before. I went to Furman, never seen it before, where it was commonplace and people talked about it all the time. So I got back to the South and someone had made mention about going to Chick-fil-A. And I'm like, Chick-fil-A? What the heck is Chick-fil-A? And it dawned on me, Chick-fil-A. It's a capital letter A. I'm like, filet. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is genius. I never saw it that way before. I had this major epiphany. Now, I'm not proud of this moment. I know you're probably going, wow. It's okay. Chick-fil-A was not popular. It was not in the North at all, in the Northeast at all. But now I call those moments Chick-fil-A moments. My daughters will share with me and their friends now call it Chick-fil-A moments, where they have these epiphanies and these ahas. It's a different way of looking at things. It's right there in front of your face, but you never question it. You never look at it a different way. You never get curious, actually. Right? I wasn't very curious about it. I was just like, that's dumb. That's the dumbest name ever. Just, I'll have an order of waffle fries. Until someone said it and I heard it years later. So those moments can come on us randomly, or we can go out looking for them purposefully. And so the purpose of this podcast and what I want to share with you is to go out and look for them on purpose. Look for different ways that you can have some paradigm shifts, some aha moments relative to your golf. And of course, I'm always talking about things off the golf course too. So let me give you some examples of different places that you can look for some of your Chick-fil-A moments. And you're welcome to use it. I'm not embarrassed by it at all. So one of the ways I had a conversation with a client, it was about playing a hole differently. You may have a hole at your golf course that is just a nemesis, or you're playing a practice round for a tournament and you have a story in your head that is just going to be really challenging and hard to get through this hole with a par. Right? You might stay up at night worrying about this one hole. I had that in tour school. It was another Chick-fil-A moment when someone may mention, you can hit a 5-iron off this tee after I hit 3 balls out of bounds. Because I was determined that I had to hit a driver on this hole that I had nightmares about. I never thought about it or looked at it from a different angle. Had I done that, I would have got my tour card. But I was stuck thinking one way. So golf holes are a great place for you to look for some of your paradigm shifts, your aha moments, your Chick-fil-A moments. It could be that you might tell me that you always have an uneven lie and you never hit a good approach shot because you always have this uneven lie, and this hole is just a challenge for you. And I would offer up, maybe you could hit something different off the tee and maybe have a flat lie and have another club in. Right? My client said, I never thought about that. I never looked at it that way. Another hole super narrow up in the driving area, but just convinced you got to hit a driver down there so you get this short club in. And we come off of that hole, never really creating a lot of great scores. Right? That's where we lose a lot of shots. What if you just hit a 5-iron off the tee box? Or a hybrid? Or a fairway wood? And had a longer club in? Now, I know some of you are going to say, yeah, I do that. But I just want you to scan it, whether you're playing a practice round or your own golf course. Where could you shift what you believe is the way that you're supposed to play a hole, or hit a chip shot, or hit a putt, anywhere on the golf course? Some of the biggest paradigm shifts that I've had with people, especially when I was teaching golf, was about 3 woods. And these were maybe higher handicappers, thinking that on par 5s, they had to go driver 3 wood. It just wasn't an option. And then they'd top their 3 wood, or they'd hit it out of play, and they'd struggle on the par 5s. When I told that your 3 wood's your lowest percentage shot that you hit well, why are you hitting it? Right? And the story in their head was, I thought I hadn't hit it. It's the club that goes the longest. I'm like, it's the club that goes the longest if you hit it solidly in the center of the face. Otherwise, it doesn't go the longest. This is why it's important to know your stats and how well you hit it. You'd be much better off taking out your 5 wood or your 7 wood or a hybrid or an 8-iron, hit another 8-iron, get on the green, make a 5 and get out of there. Another big place for shots on the golf course is around the greens. Always thinking that you have to use a sand wedge, right? And then you scull it over the green or you chunk it and you do it again and you do it again. What if you putted it? I have people look at me like, you can't putt it. I'm like, who says you can't putt it? If I was going to give you $1 million to get that ball on the green, what would you do? Probably putt it. Next, you might take a hybrid out and do a little putt with a hybrid. Right? The last club that would come into play is usually a sand wedge. If I was going to give you $1 million to get that ball on the green, right? Paradigm shift. Never thought about that. Never looked at it from that way. Never looked at it from that angle. That is too about questioning the beliefs that you have that you've never looked at from a different angle. You always thought that they were just true. You maybe thought that they were a fact. Right? And so the minute we start thinking that something is a fact, when it's not, when it's actually a belief, this is where we can get really stuck and we can have some major shifts and some major aha moments. So one of the things that I encourage my clients to do is to question every thought. Question your beliefs. Look at things from a different angle. Is it true? Is it a fact? Could you prove it in court of law? Would 7 million people on the planet agree with you? Now, if you're going to say to me, yes, I don't finish well, and I could prove that in a court of law, I don't know that that's true because a high handicapper might take your scores. They would say, that'd be awesome. I would love to have 2 double bogeys coming in, right? This is what shifted me with my putting. This is how I was able to take, talking in my coach terms, taking my belief that I thought was a fact, that I'm always going to struggle with my putting, and pulling it out of what I call the S line, pulling it out of that line where it was a fact that everybody would agree with me. Because a lot of high handicappers would have taken my putting. Not even. Mid-handicappers, some low handicappers would have taken my putting. So it wasn't true. I couldn't prove that in a court of law. There would be people on the jury who would sit there and go, are you kidding me? I take 34 putts around. So that was a big aha moment for me where I realized, okay, maybe that's not true. And that's where I shifted everything relative to my putting, was because I first had to have a big aha Chick-fil-A paradigm shift. Don't call it all that. I think that might be a little wordy. Go with Chick-fil-A. I love that. Okay, the other thing that I encourage you to look at as far as having different perspective, a shift in perspective, is people. And we get so annoyed with people as humans, especially when we're playing the game of golf, that sometimes it's worth looking at things from their angle, putting ourselves in their shoes, questioning why they're doing what they're doing. Maybe they're struggling. Maybe they're hurting. Hurt people hurt people. Maybe they're doing the best they can with what they have. Right? The minute you put yourself in someone else's shoes and look at things from their perspective, you have an aha moment. Your brain starts shifting. Why would you want to do that? For your own benefit. You're not giving them a break. You're doing it for yourself. So that's another place to have some shifts on perspective, is when you look at people that annoy you, people that bug you on the golf course, people that you're challenged with, maybe come at it and look at it from a different angle. I look at people, I see steers all the time. Don't be paranoid if you come in my presence. I can't help it. It just happens. I just, like, if your days, I just wonder, I'm like, I wonder why they're doing what they're doing. I wonder what they're thinking and feeling that's making them do what they're doing. And people aren't wrong for their thoughts. They're doing the best they can. So I can have a lot of empathy for their actions when I do that. And that's a great place to have some shifts with people that kind of bug the crap out of you. Okay, so how do you do this? I have one client who has been my client for 4 years, and he said to me early on, he said, you know what you do, Kathy? Like, it's like that Coke can. Like, if I put a Coke can in a driveway, and what I see is the label on the Coke can, but you come across it and you look at it from the backside, and you show me the backside of the can. I thought that was a really interesting analogy they make on why he put a Coke can in the middle of the driveway, to give me this analogy and his interpretation of it. But yes, that is what I do. And that's what you can do too, is you're looking at the front of the Coke can and just take a look and see if you can look at it a different way. Look at it from a different angle. Still a Coke can, but you're seeing it from a different perspective. A great question to ask yourself, too, if you're looking to shift some things, some results that you keep creating over and over again, which is why these can be a challenge and a problem, is that we keep producing the same results over and over and over again. This is how you know it's worth looking at. You keep feeling the same way over and over and over again. And it doesn't need to be that way. We can be curious and take a look and say, I wonder if there's a different way that I can look at this. And one question you can ask is, how might I be wrong about this? Or how might I be wrong about it or then? And when you ask yourself that question, you guys start to get really curious in your brain about what's going on. And you can ask, is there another way to think about it? Right? And what you're doing is when you ask your brain these questions, you put it to work to look for answers. Don't let yourself say, I don't know. Just say, what would be my best guess? Is there a different way of looking at it? And see what you come up with. Of course, you can do this on and off the golf course, but sometimes all it takes is one little Chick-fil-A moment, one paradigm shift for it to really impact your golf game and your results and how you show up in your experience. All right, my friends, golf paradigms. Let me know if you've had any Chick-fil-A moments relative to your game of golf. Share them with me. All right, have a beautiful week, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday. Bye.